can at least see my beautiful face a little bit better. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. Thank you guys for being here. Please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Another Square and Compass Motions live stream. Today's stream, we are going to be, actually, I kind of switched it. That's kind of why I'm late on this stream, not starting at 1 p.m. precisely. We recently had, and obviously when I say we, I mean North America, recently has had a lot of, the heart, Smokey's in. How's it going, Smokey? A lot of violence, whether it be politically motivated or otherwise. You can pick your terms about that. But there's been a lot of discussion online as to the extent to which black pill, or the extent to which this violence is being promoted or encouraged by this idea of taking the black pill, which is kind of a modern term that refers to nihilism, a sense of almost irony in what you're doing, like not being motivated by a particular religious belief, but rather being motivated by almost the absence of a political belief, rather being motivated by a sense of nihilism, a sense that in a world of decline, in a world of decline, the only creative act is one of negation, or one of harming others, or removing people, or removing things from society. And then the extent to which we as Freemasons represent a fight or a pushback against black pill, against nihilism, against online culture, by still requiring us to either meet in person or allowing us to take advantage of positive positive online spaces as opposed to negative. Oof, so that must be why you felt bad. Um, I mean, therefore, good for your wife for taking you to the hospital or making you go to the hospital. I'm very happy that they caught it. Hopefully, they caught it relatively early. I know my dad had ulcers, and I believe he had to get surgery. But that was, when I was 2 years old. So that was many years ago. So I'm sure the technology and the medical care has gotten even better now. So I guess what I'd say is I'm glad you got to the hospital. I'm glad you got checked out. Hopefully, it's going to be a lesson to other people. If you're feeling not well, get yourself checked out. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck in your treatment. I'm assuming surgery. I don't know for sure. But if it is surgery, I hope it's a quick recovery and hope the surgery goes well. And thank you for being here. But let this be a lesson. If you're feeling not well, don't think you can just tough it out. Go to the hospital. Speak to your doctor. Good. Well, I'm glad it's not going to take you out. I'm sure it won't either. So, is it planned surgery, or is the medication sufficient, or is it just a diet thing? Um, Whatever your doctor's telling you, follow doctor's advice. Let's wait to see who joins us. I'm going to make this a poll question. I could. But I'm assuming the internal bleeding is coming from the stomach ulcer. Okay. Okay, well, we'll be keeping our fingers crossed for you in terms of that. And I don't know what the wait list is like in the States. In Canada, it can be quite long, but we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. It's not too long, because I know in some cases when people get injured, or people have a sickness, or people are dealing with medical issues. I know for a lot of times the biggest issue for people can be, um, um, it's the not knowing, it's the waiting for the test results. Not without, sorry, it's the uncertainty, it's the waiting. That can be one of the hardest parts. Because at least once you have all the answers, you can proceed with the game plan, right? Thank you, Mr. Keeps. That's very kind. You say LOL for Smokey, and we're all thinking of him and hoping. You say LOL with the poll. I mean, I've talked about this before, right? There's a lot of discussions right now online about the extent to which violence, and this is not that new. You could argue this is the same thing that you saw with the school shootings back in the 90s in the States. This idea that violence is not necessarily being done anymore due to having a political ideology or any ideology. Rather, it's being done due to a lack of ideology, right? It's being done ironically. It's being done because if you truly believe that this world is in decline, then by default, the one type of creative act is negation, right? If you don't think it's possible to actually build anything or build anything that will survive long term, um, then why not just tear it all down, right? It's kind of like the Joker from The Dark Knight is kind of another example of this ideology where it's not actually about money for him. It's not about, and when I say ideology, it could be ideology like I want to make money. It could be, so I'll commit crimes to make money. It could be ideology, left wing ideology, right wing ideology. It could be religious ideology or doctrines. But the point is, in the Dark Knight, in the Joker, right? He ends up committing criminal acts. He burns the money, right? He just wants to do it to, set the world on fire. So, and I think that meaning is actually something that is important in our lives, and I think Freemasonry can provide that meaning. We have one vote, yes, but not without other supports, which does make sense. I'm not sure if that was Mr. Keeps or Smokey. By the way, Mr. Keeps, make sure to check your Patreon because I sent you through the chat. I sent you the through the chat your information about how to sign up for the Patreon gifted membership. And Smokey, I sent you the message through Discord. Dad, I thought you had an appointment today. Did you already have the appointment? Shoot me off an email, so let me know how it went. And let me know how you're doing. But just think, if 35 to 40 years ago, my dad had stomach ulcers and they got rid of them without, to my knowledge, any side effects, then I'm sure in 2025, the technology's gotten even better. So, and the medical technology has gotten even better. Please take a moment if you're just joining us, hit that like and subscribe hit that like and subscribe button. I can talk. We'll talk about the black pill stuff again about an hour in, but for now, let me know how you're doing and if there is anything you want to talk about. I've got a first degree tonight, a third degree tomorrow, so it's going to be a busy couple of days. But busy is okay. And then this weekend, a little bit of a break, but mostly I'm going to be getting ready for my official visit, which is coming up on Wednesday for Border Cities Lodge. And there's a ton of stuff to get ready. We're going to have some great presentations. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. So I very much look forward to it. Oh, today is Franco American Day. with ACFOWEC. I've done a lot of stuff with ACFOWEC, actually. A friend of mine is involved with them. Oh, well, that's good. At least it's over the phone. That makes me think it might, that you got a bit of time left if they're not rushing to get you in or anything. So that's good. Or it's not, you know, um, not as serious maybe as if it was in person. However, let me know how it goes in October once it's over the phone. And like I said, I'm still trying to figure it out exactly, but my plan is to come home the end of October. At least I think it is. Knock on wood. Once I know for sure, I will let you know. But you have to leave my wheelchair alone, for the record, because it's a great wheelchair. Well, that would be a very dirty joke. Um, so today is actually Franco Ontario Day, French Ontarian. Might be kind of fun to do a podcast about that at some point because there's a lot of really great French, a lot of really great French heritage in Freemasonry as well as in Ontario. Oh, September 25th is also apparently National Cooking Day. Some would say I'm a bad cook. However, that would be another thing to talk about because Freemasonry, obviously, we have our Masonic. No, you're not going to do that. I don't need a new chair. A lot of Masonic chefs. I've actually wanted to talk in the past about Freemasonry and fine dining, but our junior wardens obviously are a very important part of the craft. So. But let's give it a bit of time. Let's see who joins. As always, the first hour I just hang out. The second hour is when I have my more specific topics. So, again, today I was thinking about the black pill ideology because I think there's relevance to Freemasonry therein. So I'm using dark pill in the internet meaning, which is nihilism, right? There's kind of the original metaphor for how this came to be was from the Matrix. And I never use it, but I do have a Discord. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find the info. So initially, because I use it so rarely, but I will send you the information so you can find me there. Maybe I can grow a little bit more in Discord. So if you recall in the Matrix, uh, the character Neo famously gets the choice to take the red pill or the blue pill. And the red pill, if I recall correctly, it was red pill, meant, you see the world as it truly is, or the truth. And the blue pill is you remain kind of in your illusions. And a lot of people on the right wing, especially in Trumpian circles, but online, started saying that they were red pilled or had the red pill moment, which means I believe it was red pill moment, which means that they, um, saw the truth about feminism, about liberalism, about the left, about whatever it is, and it caused them to not just move politically to the right, but start to follow some people on the right, like, Andrew Tate, just pearly things. Jordan Peterson was caught up in that. This idea of being red pilled was this idea of kind of very, very generally speaking, moving to the right politically and kind of socially. And then over time, they started to add some other pills to it. The phrase white pilled started to become meaning you were feeling super optimistic about the future of the world, or future of the country, or just white pill in general started to mean this idea of optimism. And being black pilled began to mean that you became super nihilistic about the future of the world or of the country. It was this, to take the black pill almost meant you had no political ideology of any sort. You were rather, or no ideology, never mind political, just no ideology of any sort, except for the belief that the world was getting worse and that things around you were getting worse. And at that point, why not just, laugh? At best, why not just laugh at the embers, laugh at the destruction around you, and enjoy the kind of the misery and the suffering of others, because it's not going to get better anyways. Um, right. A good example of it is trolls. So one of my things that I always say this is, if somebody comes online, I'm trying to figure out how to invite you, Mr. Keeps, to this thing. Um, Somebody comes online, right, and says, I don't know, makes a racist joke, a sex, like, so, or put it this way: if somebody comes onto my stream and starts talking about how much Freemasonry sucks, how they hate Freemasonry, how it's ruining the world, but then goes on to another stream and talks about how much they love Freemasonry and it's the greatest thing in the world, and they're crazy. That would be an example of somebody who's black pilled. They're just on the internet stirring up shit or trolling for no reason other than it's fun. And then obviously you get to this point where people are committing, you know, violence for the same reason, not out of any ideology, just because they find it funny or ironic to see other people hurt or injured. Where do I get my Discord invitation? Right, and so it's very hard to understand that. Somebody said it's very hard to understand people who would commit criminal acts ironically, which it is, but there are people who are doing that now, it seems anyways. I cannot find, I think by now I would be able to like invite people. I may have to close my window in a second, so if you just give me one moment. See, I'm trying my best to be as much as possible, somewhat, like I tend not to immediately assume troll. It doesn't, it does happen a lot, but my general rule is, I'm going to close my window in just one second. My general rule is I will try my best to assume that the person coming on the stream is in good faith or just trying to make kind of a silly joke. If they start to get annoying, though, that's when I will, have a response. Let me see if I can figure out this quote. Invite. Well, Mr. Keeps, what is your Discord? Maybe I can find you, and then that way I don't have to, because for some reason, because I wouldn't mind seeing my thing grow. He's fine. I don't mind him. That's no troubles at all. Okay, well, anyways, here, we'll try it this way. My username on Discord, Mr. Keeps, is Square Compass Podcast. So that's my username on Discord. I'm going to go close my window because we got some construction happening outside. I'll be back in 1 second. I came back quick enough, so I figured I didn't have to leave the co-host. But I see we got a bunch of hearts happening for the co-host, so that's nice. All right, let's give it, like I said, a bit more time. Let's see who joins. Please, as always, if you are new, hit the like and subscribe button. Interesting, we still got 2 votes or 4 votes. 1 yes, 2 no's, and 1 yes, but with other supports. Yes, my cat does help. Bandit's a good cat, helps out with all my stuff, so it's much appreciated to Bandit for the help. Bandit is a good cat. He would be. Oops. So, Mr. Keeps, you can find me on Discord. Like I said, my username is at Square Compass Podcast. I don't know if you mean that ironically or not, but it's got no bleach stains at least. So you can't say anything about that, right? It's got no bleach stains. So that has to be a positive thing. It's got an all right. I mean, there's just because there's no bleach stains, right? One day I'm gonna wear a full suit and tie. I almost never do, but every now and then, because I have to wear a suit and tie tonight for my Masonic meeting. So you'd think I might wear one for these streams. However, I'm not a fancy guy. What can I say? The man makes the clothes don't make the man. We're just gonna give it a bit of time, see who joins. Well, but in fairness, they're work pants. So in fairness to that, work pants are a little bit of a different thing in that they're supposed to be dirty. That's kind of the whole point. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to have super clean work pants. Now, obviously, I'm assuming they get cleaned between shifts or whatever it is, but when you're making donuts or whatever it is, you got to keep. You're not wearing, fancy suit and tie or fancy pants. So technically I'm working right now, so this counts as workwear, if anybody asks. But even that, I would say workwear casually. A lot of people do nowadays. It's become very common for people to wear kind of workwear in a very casual way, right? Especially if it's like I've been hearing a lot about, for example, janitors or people like that finding that their work clothes. I mean, it makes sense. They're super durable. They're relatively inexpensive, and they're meant to last a long time. So that's just a sign of a life well lived or hard work. So I support that. Well, she probably can, and so I'm sure. Well, she never liked my clothes. She always complained that they were too dirty or whatever it is. But I'll wear my suit and tie tonight, so you might see me there in a suit and tie. Well, you won't actually. You're not going to be there, but just know in your hearts that I am in fact wearing a suit and tie, um, and probably my fancy tie, to be honest. It is a first degree. I might actually have some work to do. Last minute, somebody couldn't make it, so they asked me to fill in and do some work. So we shall see what I will do. Never worn a suit? Well, I mean, I don't wear them. I wear them all the time, but exclusively for Masonic meetings, right? And again, that's something that's interesting about Freemasonry, the dress codes, right? Like there are many jurisdictions in, for example, Ontario, sorry, in like Texas, I believe is one. I could be mistaken, but there are many jurisdictions where they don't have any dress code. You can show up basically wearing whatever you want, but there are other jurisdictions. Whereas, for example, in Ontario, it's suit and tie. Um, so it really just depends on the jurisdiction you find yourself in, what the dress code requirements are. And that's one suggestion I do make to people who are interested in joining Freemasonry. One of the things I always suggest that they ask early on is there a dress code? And if there is, what is it? How strict is it? Especially if they're concerned about being able to afford, if they're worried about it being able to afford a suit, right? Then you can ask about things like benevolence even to help you. Well, you can blame my dad for that because he's bald at this point. So long as I'm not as bald as my dad, I'll take a receding hairline. It depends. Usually I keep my ties knotted, but sometimes I'll put them over my head. Sorry, usually I keep my ties knotted, but sometimes I will, especially because I was told that if you keep them knotted all the time, it eventually creases the tie. So every now and then I'll try to take the knot out, especially if I'm getting them all dry cleaned, which is something else I really have to do. I need to get my suits dry cleaned. It's been a while, so maybe that's actually on my list in October. Get all my suits dry cleaned. I used to joke that Freemasonry in Ontario was invented by a very smart um, dry cleaner because basically you're having us eat soups and chilies, but also requiring us to wear suits and ties. Um, it's basically the nature of Freemasonry in Ontario. You're going to spend a lot of money on you're going to spend a lot of money on dry cleaners. So be prepared, especially if you get to an officer position, because then you need both your regular suit for your business meetings and you need your tuxedo for your degree nights if you're an officer, which is a pain in the butt. Oh, hold on one second. Well, Smokey, that's one way to do it. I'm proud. I'm happy that your marriage still worked out. It sounds like your wife was understanding. I mean, if we got married, you wouldn't be able to get away with that. I'll tell you that right now. Um, Cladic, I can't pronounce that to save my life. I know I got a big nose. I may have to put you in timeout in a second. I'm not going to do it quite yet, but you're getting close. Try to say something at least somewhat outside of just the fact I got a big nose. Um, and I mean, I don't know what half of those things mean, to be honest with you. Cladicup might be, I'm going to say that's because that's all I can figure out how to pronounce it. He might be in that example of being black-pilled, which we talked about before, right? Which is nihilism and irony just for its own sake, or a troll, if you will. Troll is another example of being black-pilled. That is possible as well. I would suppose that's really scary if our AI bots start to become black pilled, right? That would be a particular because AI, to my understanding, what it does is it's basically picking up prompts from its data set and then regurgitating them. If its data sets are becoming more and more nihilistic, the AI itself will become more and more nihilistic, right? Which is similar to what you saw with um, Grok not that long ago. Not blackmailed, Claddock, black pilled, Pilled. Black pill is the idea of nihilism. Basically, right, you don't have any thoughts on Freemasonry one way or the other. You don't have any opinions on me one way or the other. You just think it's kind of fun or funny to jump on a stream and make fun of somebody. And you guys can't see, but one thing Clap notes is he says, "My life is shit," which again is actually a very black pilled ideology. This idea of my life is not great, so I'm going to come on stream and make fun of other people's lives, which does not seem, by the way, a very healthy approach to take. Well, all right, Clap, let's talk about it. What is it about the world that is making you feel black pilled or making you feel nihilistic towards the future? Yes, as Sanjeet said, why is your life not great? I'm assuming it might not be great for, well, it's not true, Smokey. I mean, I care about people on the stream. Conversely, what's great about your life? Good question, man. Tan M. I think you might be new to this stream. Um, well, I definitely don't want to be your dad. I definitely don't want that. Uh, I just, if you're going to jump on the stream and you're going to say your life is shit, I'm going to ask you why, and suggest maybe that you find some help and support wherever it is that you are. And I will wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors, I guess. And if you ever come back on the stream, hey, I hope your life gets better. I genuinely do. Well, Matt Tham, I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button if you're new. When you say what's so great, it's interesting. One thing I've been trying to do lately, I don't always succeed, but I do try my best, is before I go to sleep at night, I try to think about a few things that went very well in my life, or things that I have to be grateful for. I think ultimately, though, what makes my life great is the fact that I have the skill and ability and opportunity through being relatively healthy. I have a roof over my head. I have food in my stomach right now. I have this stream and I have Freemasonry. I'm given the opportunities to use my talents and abilities to try and make the world a better place. At least I hope I can make the world a better place. That's kind of my desire and my goal. Um, and I get to do that through Freemasonry. So I think that is makes my life so great. Obviously, um, like everything, everybody's life has problems and challenges. It's not always great. However, like I said, I can honestly say that I'm able to try to use my skills and abilities to try to make the world a better place through Freemasonry primarily. And through this stream, I have people on the channel. I've got Mr. Keeps, who has been kind enough to send me care packages to keep me well fed. I've got my Masonic friends. I'm going to see them tonight. I'm doing work. I get to help somebody join Freemasonry, be part of their degree. And I always try to think about that stuff, right? Whenever I am having a crummy day or don't recognize how good my life is, I try to think to myself, what are some of the things that are actually making my life pretty great? It's a good way to combat black pill and nihilism. Well, Clad Cup, most people can't see that, what you just said, and it's a good thing they didn't. Let's everybody try to remember that even jerks on the stream or people who are saying unkind things, if their life is not so great, and, Clap did say his life was not going so great, right? We're not going to judge him or get too upset with him. We're just going to hope that he does well. And we're going to ask him, again, if he wants to talk about it, what it is that's making his life crummy. Well, but Clap, I'm also talking about you because you're being kind of a jerk too. Mr. Keeps is a good friend of the channel and a good dude, right? And obviously, I think a lot of people are going to be protective of this stream. It is open to the public as it should be, but that doesn't mean you get to be uncool either. So be careful, Clap. I'm not going to delete you quite yet or put you in timeout. However, let's try to keep it positive on this stream. Because if you genuinely are struggling and having a rough time in life, then, like I said, you're on the stream. I'd love to know why. I think one of the things my Freemasonry teaches me or encourages me is to be charitable in many different forms. And sometimes charity is being charitable with money or with material goods, but sometimes being charitable is being charitable with time or being charitable with understanding, forgiveness, benefit of the doubt, etc., etc. I don't think he's an AI bot. It's possible, but I don't think he is. Man Tam M. Gratefulness takes awareness and effort, whereas jealousy even if you're doing great. And fairness are innate and effortless, not just humans. Example, the monkey, except if a monkey was. Well, that is very true, right? And I think that that actually, Mantam, does make a lot of sense when it comes to yes, get back to work, Smokey, do your landscaping. I do think, how do I put this? So any animal that evolved to live and exist within groups, either to live and exist within groups for protection, or for resource management, or whatever it is, and that's even fish, have demonstrated. I've actually seen, um, I've only ever seen positive, or what's the word? Well, I like to think I'm a good dude, Claddecup. I work on it. I do my best. Even fish that, exist in schools in the ocean or rivers, whatever it is, even fish who exist in schools have demonstrated that if one fish, for example, takes more food than it's supposed to, or kind of doesn't fulfill its responsibilities in terms of um, traveling with the group, if it holds the group up, or if it goes too far ahead of the group, whatever it is, there's been all sorts of evidence that even fish will actually punish a member of their school that acts against the common good. I actually wrote a paper about that in law school. The idea of punishment within group settings as a way to enforce cohesiveness and fight against things like the prisoner's dilemma. So, you're absolutely right that I think the idea of fairness is something that exists within many animals, so long as those animals have evolved to exist within a group setting. And if they see any type of unfairness, again, one member of the group getting more food, being lazy, not pulling their weight, you see this in primates, you see this in fish, you see this in mammals, there's punishment. And then that goes again to this idea of we as humans are naturally designed to want to be part of groups. It's for our own safety as much as anything else. Um, Combined with an innate sense of fairness and unfairness. However, what Freemasonry kind of reminds us is it's not enough to just know and recognize what is fair and what is unfair. We also have to be charitable when people mess up. We also have to be kind. We also have to be grateful, which is not as naturally occurring to most humans. However, I think if you work on it, it can pay dividends. Sanjeet, I went to law school. I got my undergrad at the University of Winnipeg, and then I went to law school, University of Windsor. I don't think it's exclusively about survival. Well, unless you want to take the idea of survival as being, like if you want to define survival in the broadest sense, then you could probably say it is. So for example, one thing that one thing that being part of a group gives humans is emotional support. Um, is emotional support necessary to survive? Not in the same sense that food, water, whatever is necessary to survive. However, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's no question that the social support and emotional support provided by a group dynamic does in fact create a necessity for survival. If you're lonely and you're scared and you don't feel supported, your likelihood of surviving long term reduces significantly. Um, I'd say millions of years, more than thousands, Sanjeet. But yes, you're not wrong. As primates, we are naturally evolved to find support and comfort within group dynamics and group settings, and without which our survival significantly reduces. Our chances of survival are significantly reduced. At least that's my opinion, for whatever it's worth. And that's one of the things about Freemasonry, I think. Again, it provides the opportunity for us to find the things we need to survive, um, whether it be um, whether it be survival in the sense of emotional support, esteem, or even in some cases, having a group around you helps make sure that if you stumble, you still have support. So, for example, having a lot of friends, having a group around you means if you lose your job, you know you can rely on people for maybe provide you with some food, to provide you with some money to get through the rough patch, whatever it might be, right? You need that group. Um, so red pill, again, red pill I think is more right wing ish, um, or like Andrew Tate style, the manosphere, if you will. The black pill is more just nihilism. I can understand it. Certainly, there are days when I can be a little bit more black pilled, especially if things go not well. However, I think there's still a significant amount of positive in the world and things to be grateful for, and being um, working hard on being grateful. And my Masonic journey has helped me kind of fight off the worst of the black pill ideas. Um, well, so Tate would be red pilled, right? Like Andrew Tate would be your red pilled, or not just Andrew Tate per se, but the manosphere. Most people who went to, let's say, Andrew Tate would describe themselves as having a red pill moment. Black pill is nihilism. I mean, it's tough to narrow them, right? Because everybody kind of defines it themselves. I suppose if I had to give more narrow definitions, um, that is true, Mantham. What I'd say is blue pill. I don't know if anybody ever admits to being blue pill, but blue pill means you accept the world as it is, and you're kind of happy with the status quo. Red pilled means you start to believe it's all baloney, and you start to turn to more counterculture, counter, not even counterculture per se. You just turn to more of a right wing view of things like feminism and whatever it is. White pill means you're optimistic about the future, and black pill means you're nihilistic about the future. Or simps. Okay. There's no brown pill, thankfully. Well, I mean, I guess if you had to define red pill, I'll see if I can find it better. Like, it comes again from the Matrix, right? Um, right. To be red pilled is to believe one has discovered a hidden truth about society, often a conspiracy or fundamentally biased reality, and to reject mainstream narratives, which they call being blue pilled. So, certainly, Andrew Tate was one who kind of adopted this um, metaphor of being red pilled, but he's not the only one. Basically, anybody who, for example, like Candace Owens, would be somebody who's been red pilled, et cetera, right? The initial concept was about seeing any hidden reality. The term is now predominantly used in the context of the manosphere, where it describes a belief that society is biased against men due to feminism and is associated with misogyny, anti-feminist sentiments, and far-right ideology. So, sure, like that's a good way to describe it. Blue pill means accepting kind of mainstream narratives. Though I noticed you did not put Fox in there, Mr. Keeps. I mean, I would describe myself typically as a blue pill person. I'm very wary of conspiracies. I'm very wary of um, believing things outside the mainstream. I'm not a fan of Rogan, not a fan of any of that stuff. I would say on my worst days, I tend to have a little bit of black pill nihilism in me. However, I try to be more optimistic. But I think the point, really, what I'm trying to say with this stuff is the real danger a lot of people are saying nowadays in 2025 is people through the internet becoming radicalized, not with any ideology, but rather with a lack of ideology, believing nothing matters, um, right? Believing the world will never get better, can never get better. And therefore, really, then what it comes down to is just getting notoriety, getting famous online, right? That's the most important thing because why does anything else matter? So, if you can get famous or get noticed by hurting other people, then why not, right? An example of old school black pill ideology would be in the 1990s and 2000s. There was this thing called bum fights where people basically, these kind of monsters, they took video cameras out and they paid homeless people to fight each other. They recorded them fighting each other and then they put it on cassettes and sold them. No interest in helping the people, no interest in doing anything other than getting them to hurt each other for money. That would be an example of being blackpilled. I almost believe in no conspiracies. I believe the moon landing absolutely happened. I mean, amongst other reasons, because one of our Masonic brothers was the second person ever to set foot on the moon. Um, so I definitely believe in the moon landing. No, I think conspiracies, I think they're incredibly toxic and they're incredibly dangerous to society. Once you believe in one, I've noticed people tend to believe in more and more. I've given a million times the movie Bug, B-U-G. That's a perfect example of um, what conspiracy theories do to people, especially people who are lonely, who are sad, who feel like they don't have anyone in their life, or who feel as though the world is falling apart or their world is falling apart. Conspiracy theories can be a really comforting place in which to delve. Um, Ultimately, though, to the harm of yourself and everyone around you. Another, but if you don't care, then you don't care if you're exploiting somebody, right? Like there's different levels of not caring. There's not caring in the apathetic sense, which is right, you can't be bothered to really do anything. So you're not out there actively hurting people. Um, Greeting Shemshu, you're not out there actively trying to hurt people, but you're also not trying to do anything to help people. You're just lying on your couch watching TV, which in my opinion is a type of hurt. Voltaire said, "We are responsible for all the good we do not do." Um, and I think that that is true. And I think that if we are choosing to waste whatever talents and abilities we have by just choosing not to care, then I think that is in and of itself a harm to society. However, it's not as bad as kind of more, I don't know what the word is, more active black pilled, which is, it's almost a psychopathic approach where because you think the world is screwed up anyways, you figure, why don't I just contribute to making it worse so long as by doing so I can get whatever it is I want. So I can get money by selling fights of homeless people on the streets. I can get money by, I don't know, exploiting people in I don't know, some type of adult industry and exploiting them because I'm going to get mine and that's what matters. I can put out a shitty meme coin that I just want to get money off of, like the Haktua girl. Um, through to I can be violent, I can hurt people because at least I know I'll get on the news and at least I know people will be saying my name and talking about me or talking about what I did, right? So it goes in, black pill can be anything from, I don't know, apathetic, the world is going to hell, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to lie on my bed all day and who cares what happens, to I'm going to launch some type of pretend cryptocurrency that's going to scam people a lot of money, but so long as I get rich at the end of it, that's all that matters. Two, I'm going to shoot an ICE detention facility potentially just to get the clicks, just to get the lulls. I don't even have to be around anymore. The guy ended up hurting himself afterwards, ended up taking his own life after the fact. But I think based on what a lot of people said about him, he loved the idea of people talking about him and trying to decode what he meant and stirring shit up. Hello, SBL. Well, we're not doing that. So no. Actually, you know a really great example of being black-pilled is? I wonder if I can find it now. Hold on just 1 second. I'll be right back. It's from The Stand by Stephen King. And Randall Flagg. Oof, but I gotta figure out where I put it now. People, first of all, it's giant. I gotta put you in timeout, SLB, but it's giant, just so you know. Um, all right, timeout for you. All right. I'm gonna see if I can find the flag first description black pill. Let's see if I can find this. I think most of it can be reasoned out. Like I said, I think ultimately conspiracy theories are just incredibly harmful to society. Oh, here it is actually. I know I had it somewhere. Oh, it's down here. Oh, these are the Bachman books. Never mind. All right. I don't know if I can find it. All right, I can't find it now. Basically, in The Stand, you have this character called Randall Flagg, and when he's first introduced, he's walking down the road, but he has on his person and on his vest a whole bunch of pins and literature, but there's no consistency to the messages from the literature and the pins. Some of it is stuff that's very right wing. Some of it is stuff that's very left wing. Some of it is, anarchist, libertarian, liberal, right? It's a whole bunch of different ideologies. But the point is, wherever he would go, he would foment or encourage anger against whatever the other side would be. So, he had attended Black Panther meetings and encouraged violence against the FBI, but then he went to law enforcement conferences and encouraged violence against black people. And he would go to communist rallies and encourage the taking down of civic structure or democracy, but then he would go to right wing rallies and he would encourage persecution of communists, and he would go to KKK rallies and he would encourage racism, and then he would wherever he was, he would just encourage the most extreme version of that to encourage violence against the other side. And that's an example of being black-pilled, or that's an example of encouraging a black-pilled philosophy where you don't actually care about anything other than seeing as much chaos, harm, and destruction, and enjoying it and reveling it and making fun of it, making fun of people who are trying to do better. That's an example of being black-pilled. The Stand by Stephen King, Mantham. Like I said, I think Randall Flagg, when he's first introduced, would be a great example of black pill ideology, right? And to me, it does cause people to lose trust in institutions. And to me, the thing I love, well, one of the things that I most appreciate about Freemasonry is I think by demonstrating that there is actually things in the world worth fighting for, things in the world worth making a better place. Nihilistic. So black pilled is you don't believe in anything other than, kind of that the world is in decline. Now, some people, when they get black pilled, turn to apathy, which is they just stop caring about anything and stop doing anything. Some people, when they get black pilled, what the understanding is actually tend to go towards violence because why not, right? Or to scamming other people out of money or out of whatever it is, because why not? The world is going to hell anyway, so why can't I scam people so long as I get money? Because there's no point in trying to make the world a better place, but I can at least make sure I'm doing okay as the world goes to hell. It's the same attitude that causes millionaires to build fallout shelters in their houses, but not spend that money on trying to make sure the world doesn't come to a place where it needs fallout shelters. Um, King is not blackpilled, but one of King's characters in The Stand, called Randall Flagg, would be an example of being blackpilled. Um, in that, again, when you first are introduced to him, so he's walking down the street, but he has the most extreme literature from every side of the political spectrum and beyond, from the most ardent feminist to the most ardent misogynistic to the most ardent right wing groups, to the KKK, to the Black Panthers, to whatever it is, all because what he does is he travels around and encourages chaos and encourages kind of nihilism, not with any particular political ideology in mind, just because he likes to see things fall apart. So that would be the initial introduction to Randall Flagg in Stephen King's book, The Stand. Dream Seeker, that's a positive attitude. I'm trying to remember that, though sometimes it can be hard. Um, but there is a lot of good in the world. And welcome back, Slavko. So here's this is from the Britannica. Um, but I mean, Randall Flagg pops up in a lot of Stephen King books. What I would say is whether he is or not, he encourages others to become black-pilled, right? He has no particular ideology other than he likes the idea of people suffering, which is a kind of black-pilled approach, right? The extent to which he is or is not a supernatural entity, I guess he must be because, like I said, he pops up in probably 4 or 5 different, or more than that, Stephen King books, right? Um, um, I mean, he's in what? The Gunslinger, The Stand, Eye of the Dragon, off the top of my head. Right. So the term black pill, first popularized in the 2010s on the incel blog Omega Virgin Revolt, refers to accepting the futility of fighting against any system. Um, Black pilled incels are encouraged to either harm themselves or go ER/be a H capital ERO, which means hurt other people. Um, Right. This talks about red pill to black pill. The red pill, a term that comes from the 1990 from the Matrix, has become a framework for individuals to describe their awakening to some previously hidden, suppressed reality. The major contemporary secular male supremacist movements, um, MGTOW, men going their own way, all use terminology to describe the realization of being red pilled. Beginning around 2016, many forums began to shift from a red pill to a black pill mentality. Um, black pill, where is it here? Dun, dun, dun. Here it is. Wikipedia talks about it. Um, I'm trying to find this. That doesn't help anything, right? Well, I think that is like when you say it can't be a humbling experience to maybe think about how big the world is, how many problems exist in the world, but also how you can possibly help to make the world a better place, right? I think that's very valuable as well. The black pill, for those on the extreme right, the black pill represents nihilism or a realization that the system is too far gone to change. The powers that govern our lives are too deeply entrenched and too powerful to do anything about. See, I would change that. I would say for those on any extreme, the black pill represents nihilism or a realization that the system is too far gone to change. The powers that govern our lives are too deeply entrenched and too powerful to do anything about. In the incel movement, the black pill is far more pernicious. So I don't disagree with Mr. Keeps completely. I would say the very last line, I'm not sure I agree or disagree with that. I think a heterogeneous community or society can actually be a good thing. However, I do agree with you that communities not existing anymore is a major problem. The fact that people don't know their neighbors is a major problem, and that all encourages a black pill ideology. Because the beautiful thing about community is if somebody starts to struggle, starts to fall down these black pill style rabbit holes where they feel like nothing they do matters, that the world is against them, that they cannot do anything to make either themselves or the world a better place, except to embrace kind of hurting other people. Again, either financially scamming other people through to actually physically hurting them, because who cares? I don't believe that is the natural default position for people. And I think if you have community, if you have friends, if you have people around you that you can trust, that you can talk to, the hope is they'll see you starting to slide and they'll give you reasons to still believe in, if nothing else, the goodness of the community, if not the goodness of people around you. They can take you out for coffee. They can give you something to look forward to, something to want to do. Like I have a lodge meeting tonight, right? I can't get too nihilistic. Otherwise, why would I go to this lodge meeting tonight? If that makes any sense. You need to recognize and understand on some level that there is good within the world. And Freemasonry helps demonstrate that. Again, you lose your job. That can be a major black pill moment for people where they feel like I worked really hard on this job and now look at the consequences. However, what happens if in the process of losing this job, you have a Masonic lodge that finds you, that sends you financial support to get you through it, that sends you, people talking to you, that gives you food, which has happened in the past. I've known Masons who deliver food to brothers who are sick and infirm, right? All that stuff can help push against this idea of nothing matters and the world is not worth, and the world doesn't care about you. As my dad says, Freemasonry is a community. I think community is probably the most important tool we have to fight against being black-pilled, right? And part of that, there has to be a charitable component to that as well. I've said before, somebody is becoming black-pilled, which means they're becoming nihilistic. They no longer believe that the world can be made better, and so they're just enjoying watching it burn or contributing to that. Sometimes we need to be charitable in the sense that we say to those people, you're wrong. However, we're not going to abandon you. We're going to see if there's not a way that we can make you. We're going to see if there's not a way that we can be there to support you, maybe through psychological first aid, if what caused their nihilism is some type of crisis event. We're going to see if we can support you and be there for you in order to, try to help you get through this and find some type of hope, if not in the world, at least that you can make your life better in a more positive way without relying on injuring others. I mean, one thing I read and saw on YouTube, and I believe this to be the case, with the recent shooting that took place at the ICE facility in Dallas, one thing that a lot of, I guess, people who knew the shooter, who took his own life, knew the shooter, were saying to, I guess, press, but also authorities, is, he was 29, but he became so, the shooter became so addicted to online, rhetoric and to memes and to meme culture that apparently he became like people just stopped wanting to be around him because he wouldn't stop making jokes that weren't even that funny. They were just meant to shock people. He made a lot of jokes about sexual assault, that type of thing. He would never kind of stop making these jokes that were meant to be edgy or edgelord. He would never stop complaining. He would never stop being nihilistic. And it got to the point where everybody just chose to stop associating with him. And obviously, if you have nobody to associate with except for those people who are online and encouraging your negative kind of views and egging you on to do more negative views or more negative things or have more negative thoughts, where is that going to lead, right? That's why even with, where is he? That possible Mr. Troll, I can't see, that clap fella, right? It's like, I don't know if he is suffering or not, but certainly if he feels the need to jump on a stream and say a bunch of nonsense about people he doesn't know, and if he's not a bot, I don't think he is, but he could have been. But assuming he's not, I don't want to send him away without trying to at least be somewhat, I don't know, positive that his life can be better than he believes it to be now. I don't disagree. We make mistakes so we can be better. That's absolutely something I believe to be the case. Right? So here's the time with the black pill idea again, and this is something really important, right? Because the black pill believes that there's nothing that can be done to make the world a better place, that there's nothing that can be done to improve their own lives, except maybe through harming others. Again, you create a meme coin scam because who cares? The world is falling apart anyways, but at least I can scam people and I'll be okay, even if they won't be. So as they say, right, the black pill movement can also take on the characteristics of a death cult. Taking the black pill, believing nothing can be made better, leaves a person with relatively few options. You can give up, or in black pill parlance, LDAR, lie down and rot. You can commit suicide, right? Incel forums are filled with suicide, or black pill forums and incel forums for that matter, are filled with suicidal fantasies and threats, as well as encouraging comments to those considering suicide. The fact that there are live streams out there or are chats out there where people will come on and say, I'm thinking of killing myself, and other people respond, you should do it, I think is a very sad statement on society. Or going ER, which is a reference to Elliot Rodger, who killed 6 people near the campus at University of California. So basically, killing people, because why not, right? Believing that the attempt to change the status quo is futile and the only possible outcome is death or violence. In his manifesto, Elliot Rodger wrote, so he was kind of black-pilled against women primarily. Women think like beasts, and in truth, they are beasts. Women aren't capable of having morals or thinking rationally. They are completely controlled by their depraved emotions and sexual impulses. Women should not have the right to choose who to mate and breed with, which is a very interesting idea. The decision should be made for them by rational men of intelligence. Women are vicious, evil, barbaric animals and need to be treated as such. So again, this black pill idea of kind of such a negative view of, in this case, 50% of the population and our sisters, brothers and sisters want to look at it in that light as being just in need of control, right? And so, again, if you believe truly that the world cannot be made better, but that nihilism is the appropriate response, then what are your options? Either give up or lie down and rot, kill yourself, as in incel forums are filled with those ideas, or going ER, which means hurting other people. Sometimes women, but more often than not, I think in 2025, it's this idea of hurting anybody, because why not? And so for me, one of the reasons I focus so much on Freemasonry is I didn't know the term black pill until probably last year. However, I had been seeing probably since the pandemic, this real sense amongst even a lot of my friends of becoming black pilled, of seeing the world as being incapable of getting better, losing trust not just in our institutions, but in each other and in the world around us, and not believing that the world is necessarily worth trying to make a better place. And I think what Freemasonry reminds us of, or encourages us, amongst other things, is actually there is beauty and wisdom and strength in the world, and it is a world that is worth fighting for and trying to be made better, right? What is the point of having brothers if not to have people around you who can be there to support you when you are struggling, and can be there to make the community a better place? What is the point of preserving our Masonic buildings, if not because there's a belief that those buildings contribute to making a better world? What is the point of being charitable with our time, or even sacrificing our time to attend a Masonic lodge and a Masonic function, if not because we believe that there's something there that contributes to a better world? And so I do believe that Freemasonry can and is a cure, a bulwark against the nihilism that encourages people to, at best, just lie down and rot, or at worst, harm themselves or harm others. We even learn about this, right, in Freemasonry, or this idea in some of our rituals, certainly within the working tools of the first degree, when they talk about in emulation ritual, the idea of perseverance as being so vital and so necessary, and not giving up. And just because you're not having success in the moment, or things seem kind of impossible in the moment, through perseverance and dedication, you can actually build something beautiful. And you can actually build something beautiful that will last despite the world in which it is being built. And I don't know. Welcome, Nick. Thank you for being here. I have no idea if any of the recent violence that we've seen reported in the past few weeks or few months could have been prevented if you had a stronger and a better civic culture, including more Freemasonry. I have no idea if what we'll see in the future could be prevented. What I do believe is, while it may not prevent any one single event, the overall impact of nihilism, which I would include both acts of violence, acts of random violence, as well as acts of random economic violence, scamming people, people hurting themselves, people not, caring about themselves and take care of themselves. I do believe Freemasonry can have a positive impact in reducing those things. Um, and that's one of the reasons why I support it so much. And according to this, and I've seen it, I've seen people who go through some type of tragedy. Sometimes it's tragedy within their family life, sometimes it's tragedy within their professional life. They get divorced, they lose their job. I've seen Freemasonry pull them out of nihilism and out of bitterness because it gives them something that they are forced. It gives them something, both a group of people on which they can rely to help them kind of get through it, but also it gives them people that are relying on them, right? Which forces them to not wallow, not lie down and rot, but actually, even when they don't feel like it, to get up, to go to lodge, to do what they have to do because they know other people are supporting them. I think that's a really beautiful thing. Sometimes the thing you need the most when you're struggling is not to have people that you can count on, but to rather have people that are counting on you. Because if people are counting on you, it forces you to not lie down and rot in the black pill terminology, but to get up and do whatever you need to do to not let them down. Thank you, Spirit of Justice. And in terms of my, so I would say yes, it is. Interestingly enough, is Freemasonry a cure against black pill nihilistic ideology? People saying here are 6 people say no, um, 3 people say yes, and 3 people say yes, but other supports are required. To those who said yes, but other supports are required, please let me know what those supports might be in your opinion. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that. Nick, what is Freemasonry? Freemasonry is an umbrella term that refers to civic or social groups or organizations that are in some way, shape, or form evolved or derived from the stone mason guilds of Europe. So in the 15th century. So a very easy way to think of it, again, is as a civic or social club or even a fraternity that derived from the stone mason guilds within the 15th and 16th centuries, which is why so much of our Masonic, what's the word I'm looking for? So much of our Masonic symbolism and terminology is all comes from stonemasons, squares, levels, compasses, rough ashlars, perfect ashlars. Those are all in their own way references to stone masonry and the building of things from stone. And Dreamseeker is absolutely right. Um, Freemasonry brings brotherhood, friendship, and charity to those who feel lost and alone and forgotten. So I hope everybody, I don't know what everybody thought about what I was saying. If anybody has any opinions on what I was saying, please let me know. But thank you all so much for being here. There's really no like black pilled number. If you type in black pill statistics, I'm curious what it's going to say because I mean, there's no way to kind of plum rule. I mean, there's a million of them, right? I just gave some of the tools: the trowel, which is not in our ritual, but is in the States. Oh my gosh, geometry, which is synonymous with stonemasonry. Um, yeah, if you view Freemasonry as this idea of building, right? Well, why do you build? You don't build something if you believe the world is going to hell, or if you believe whatever you're building is not going to last. You build because on some level you believe um, the thing itself is worth building, and you believe that the world is worth being built within, right? If you believe everything you build is being built on a foundation of sand that will crumble at any moment, well, then you are probably not going to want to build, right? If you believe that there is something here worth it, that's a little bit more, that is going to encourage you. And that's what Freemasonry teaches us, that the world is worth building within and building something within that will last. Um, It'd be really, I wonder how we would do it. If we were to do like a poll question of, let's say, are you black pilled, and ask and explain what that is, and then ask every Mason, I'm wondering if we would see um, a greater number of people saying they are not black pilled within Freemasonry than you would in the general population. I mean, I would assume you would have to, right? Because to me, if you are truly black pilled, again, you're not going to take part in anything. You're sure not going to take part in Freemasonry, because what would be the point? So my suspicion is you'd actually see really interesting results therein. It'd be worth exploring. It would be absolutely worth exploring. Please don't forget, by the way, if you did win one of the gifted Patreon memberships during our previous 24-hour stream, then I absolutely hope that you will get in touch with me if you've not done so yet, or I've got in touch with you, and claim your gifted Tier 1 membership. You get some really cool stuff, and you might as well take advantage of it. How often do you win things, Like Smokey said he never wins, so he won something. Hope he takes advantage of it. And we're gonna give this another about 20 to 30 minutes. I will be doing my stream at 1 a.m. this morning. It's funny, at 1 a.m. I got a bunch of people I don't usually get, so we'll see who else joins. Nick, let me know if I explained well what Freemasonry is. If I didn't, I can try again. And let's give it a bit of time, and let's see who joins. Never. What is never? Never, you're not going to join the Patreon? Well, you won, Dream, so you should. Well, tonight it's relatively simple degree work. It's not too hard. It's the apron charge. We've done it a million times. Tomorrow I actually got a big piece. So I'm probably going to be trying to practice it today in a break, because I got a very long piece of degree work tomorrow. It's a third degree, so. But don't worry, then I get the weekend off. Well, not the weekend off, I still got work to do, but less weekend work, put it that way. Much less. Welcome, Leonardo. Thank you for being here. Black pill is a belief that basically the world, it's basically nihilism. It's the belief that whatever problems presently exist in the world will exclusively get worse, but cannot be made to get better. And therefore, your only choices are either to lie down and rot, basically give up and just, exist in a state of apathy and not caring, to harm yourself or to harm others in a way to get whatever you can get from the world without worrying about how it hurts others. So, for example, um, that could mean anything from scamming people online to get money, because if the world is going down the toilet anyways, you might as well get whatever it is you can get from the world, even if it harms other people, up to being violent and hurting other people, again, out of a desire to, because if the world is not salvageable, you might as well help destroy it. Dad's not wrong. Yes, well, so don't forget to get in touch then, Dream Seeker, because I'd hate for you not to be able to take advantage of it. And again, if you don't want to remain a Patreon, um, then like after you get your 1 month gifted, you can always cancel it, and you don't pay the $3 a month. So, what would you say the accurate definition of black pill is, Spirit? To me, it's always been nihilism and a desire a belief that the world cannot be made any better. There is an element to it, it originated in misogynistic circles, but I think in 2025, it's more of just the general sense that things cannot be made better, not specific to, for example, misogyny. I agree, Leonardo. I think, one thing, and I think Freemasonry can be a cure for a lot of societal ills by our example, demonstrating to the world at large or to others that differences in religious beliefs, differences in ethnicities, differences in race, differences in language, differences in faiths and religions, demonstrating to others that all of those differences do not stop people from gathering and working on building something greater than themselves or working together, is something that Freemasonry does. And I think demonstrating to people that there is something worth fighting for and building within the world. I think that's also incredibly valuable. And hopefully, anybody who does feel nihilistic, we demonstrate to them that they don't need to feel that way. That there is actually something in the world worth building. Well, then that would be wonderful, Dream Seeker. However, don't forget, you got to sign up first. So info@squareandcompass.ca. That's how you can reach me by email, or patreon.com/ Square and Compass. You can sign up that way as well. If you sign up for the free membership, I'll send you a message how to access your gifted Tier 1 membership. In Brazil, we'd say you never freeze because you're fully covered by reason. I've never heard that expression before. I'm not sure what it means exactly. Sorry, can you describe it a little bit more, Leonardo? What is meant by that? Though it sounds cool. Well, I'll take it. I'll take being right. I try to be right as much as I can. I don't always succeed, of course, but that's a whole other can of tuna. Well, I mean, I would say that is the most spirit. That is the most mild form of black pill, right? Um, Like, I wouldn't say that's like, I don't know if I'd say that's black pilled, right? Because, that's almost a serenity prayer spirit, right? God grant me the, how does it go again? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? So accepting that there are some things you cannot change and accepting that fact and not trying to be Superman and change things beyond your control, that's a more positive approach. The negative view of black pilling is that nothing can be changed, that nothing can be made better, right? That there's nothing worth fighting for because everything is going to hell anyways. So there's a difference there. Well, I mean, I would describe myself as being blue pilled. I tend to believe, generally speaking, in kind of, I guess, the conventional world in which we live. The extent to which I think people struggle, I very rarely view that from the perspective of societal forces against you. I think it's more individuals making their own decisions. All right, goodbye, Dad. I love you. Thank you for being here as always. Super Dab, welcome. And to everybody who's watching us joining us, especially if you're new, please hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button. We're all famous. Welcome, Solomon. Thank you for being here. Please take a moment, hit that like button and subscribe button. I'm just hanging out chatting. I was talking again about why I think Freemasonry is a effective or can be an effective fight against the um, black pill ideology. No worries. But I appreciate you saying hi. Thank you for stopping in. That's very kind of you. And as always, please hit that, like button on your way out. Today, by the way, is National Cooking Day. So Freemasonry has a lot of connections to fine dining. I'm trying to actually do a podcast about that. If I ever succeed, I will let you guys know for sure. And speaking of, I do have a podcast coming out soon regarding Freemasonry in Mexico. So I say it to everybody just because I never know who's coming in and out, and I always want to make sure I say it enough that I catch people. But if you are already subscribed, then I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. It is very, very kind of you. And you can share the stream, etc., etc. We got a whole bunch of reactions. I'm not sure if that's our friend Smokey, but they're different reactions than normal. So maybe it's our friend Ryan who does that often as well. We're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to see who else joins. As always, please take a moment. If you are new, hit that like button and subscribe button. And if you're already subscribed, then I appreciate you being here. Well, so it can the black pill started within the incel community, but then kind of expanded outward. In the same way, red pill started in the kind of red pill started in the kind of right-wing manosphere, or initially, red pills started as just generally any believing any type of unconventional narrative, then was adopted by kind of the manosphere, but now has become taking the red pill. Again, it just means basically disagreeing with any established narrative. So you can have people saying, I took the red pill about the earth being round. The earth is round, by the way. But people will use the term red pill to mean they no longer believe the earth to be round, right? And black pill, again, it started in the incel community, but now it's become colloquial to just mean, if I say I'm become black pilled about, if I say I become black pilled about a sports team, like if I say I have no idea how they're doing, I become black pilled about the Winnipeg Jets, it means I no longer have any belief that the Winnipeg Jets can have a winning season, right? But when people say now they become black pilled in general, what it means they've become nihilistic about the world in general, or no longer believe the world as a whole or our system is kind of can create a better world, or will get better. Um, yes, Leonardo, the world is round, but if somebody says they become red pilled about the round Earth, what they mean is they no longer believe that the world is round. So, and said black pilled again, whatever. Despite its initial term, now colloquially, it means to kind of lose hope. If somebody says they're black pilled, it means they've lost hope. And I think Freemasonry can and does encourage hope, even when hope seems useless or hope seems very hard. To lose hope, I think, while it can be comforting, because if you decide everything's going to suck, then you're going to be right, it ultimately does not get you very far. Okay. Well, yeah, the Black Lodge. It's interesting because, black, like, used to hear a lot of terms of like black hat, white hat being good guys, black hats being bad guys. Um, it seems interesting now that like white pill now means like optimism, black pill now means like nihilism. Not even pessimism, but nihilism, which is interesting. What is a geoid? Do you mean, yes, the world is not perfectly round. It's like oblong shaped almost. I've never heard the term geoid before though, so I don't know what that means. So I can't agree with you or disagree because I do not know. However, I promise you it's not flat. At least I can promise you as much as I can promise anything else. Let's see if we can. I'll probably be ending this stream soon because I do have to practice for tomorrow. Uh, I have my work to do today, but it's actually a piece I've done a million times. But tomorrow I have to do a very long piece of work. So for that, may need to take some more time to study a little bit because it's been a while since I've done any work in the third degree. Here's an interesting way to put it. The Freemasons community on Twitter, which I encourage everybody to follow, just said Freemasonry calls men to labor not for themselves, but for others. If you're being called to labor for other people, it's very hard to maintain your level of bitterness about the or nihilism. That's a really good question, Mr. Keeps. That's a really interesting philosophical point that you're making. Hmm. What would I say to that? Because you could argue in some ways the one true way to be black pilled is to just do nothing, right? Lie down and rot. Just become completely apathetic to the world, which is, in my opinion, a form of harm. As I said, we are responsible for all the good we do not do, per Voltaire. And I believe that. Here's what I would say then. If you're nihilistic or black pilled, the extent to which you have any ideology, it's about personal satisfaction at the harm of others, um, or seeing chaos, or again, making jokes that hurt people, or whatever it is, right? Maybe that's the way to consider being black pilled. Because it's like you don't believe anything can be made better. You don't even believe your life can be made better in a classical sense, in the way most people would um, define because most people would say, the way that you define a life getting better is by um, you have a decent house, you have a decent place to live, you have friends, you have a decent job, you have a 401k, right? Black pilled people would probably say, um, what makes things better for me is if I'm having as much fun as possible. However, it is I achieve that fun, even if that fun is seeing other people be hurt, or even if that fun is me getting my name on the news for hurting other people or committing some type of mass atrocity. Hey, at least I got on the news, right? Um, so I would say maybe the way to think about Black Pill is it's nihilism about the world, while a desire to, a belief that the one thing that matters is how much enjoyment you're getting from the nihilism you see in the world and the chaos you create. It's kind of like that old what's it called, the conundrum or the contradiction of, there is one truth that there are no truths. When people say that, there's an obvious contradiction there, because if there are no truths, how can there be one truth, right? If you're nihilistic but you're doing things out of an enjoyment of seeing others suffer, then are you actually nihilistic if you're experiencing joy? um, Dream seeker. What would you do if you saw a guy? Well, first of all, no one should be hitting anybody, and especially no one should be hitting any woman, and no one should be hitting their girlfriend. I would go up to that fella and suggest that he not do that. Um, if he gets mad at me, then so be it. I guess we'll have to throw down. I'm sure I would lose because I got no legs, but I like to think that um, I like to think that I could at least handle myself in that situation. But hopefully, what I would also be able to do is find a time to speak to the girl separately somehow, and maybe suggest she get some help and find some help, um, and offer her some potential resources, especially from my time as a probation officer. I do know some of those resources for women who are experiencing abuse, but I would like to think I would step in and try to make sure that she was okay, and approach the guy about not behaving in the way he's behaving. Um, well, I mean, equal rights, equal lefts. So no clap. See, that is an example of a little bit of nihilism right there, that idea, right? So no, there is no, violence is not okay. And again, if you see it, then you have a responsibility to try to help the people involved, and especially try to help the woman as best as you can. Um, yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, Leonardo, I do know some Masonic brothers who are black pilled. It's unfortunate, but I've met some who have said to me that they don't think Freemasonry will survive another 30 years. I once read a paper by somebody who said they don't believe Freemasonry will survive past 2040. And honestly, I've had my moments of being black-pilled about Freemasonry where I don't necessarily know if it's going to survive. And honestly, part of me still doesn't know if it's going to survive. The numbers are not in our favor. The societal forces are not in our favor. And so many lodges are struggling. However, I guess, there's a weird kind of almost freedom if you truly believe that you're not going to win. What that can encourage you to do is to turn bitter and violent. It can also give you a sense of freedom in that why not help as many people as I possibly can? Like, if you're going to quote unquote lose no matter what, well, then why not help as many people? Help as many people as you can. Why not care for as many people as you can? Right? Why does the inevitable loss mean you stop trying or hurt people, right? Why can't it mean the opposite? There should be a freedom in that. And also, it should give you a freedom to be willing to take more risks, right? You would think, okay, I know that if we do nothing, this thing won't make it another 30 years. So you'd think that would encourage you to be willing to take more risks for the good of the order, as opposed to what often happens is people start to turn more inward, take less risks. It's like, look, if you know we might not make it anyways, shouldn't that be almost freeing to say, let's try some crazy stuff. Let's try some crazy stuff because maybe it will work, right? I think the black pill approach almost becomes either just don't do anything or again, um, uh, uh, become bitter and angry. Well, it's interesting, Clap. I used to work as a probation officer and I used to work in a jail and I used to work at a legal clinic. And I did do a lot of um, it was never a social worker, but kind of a lot of the job had certain social work elements to it. And I worked closely with social workers. Freemasonry is an umbrella term that refers to civic and social groups that evolved from stone mason guilds in the 15th century. So the way to think about it is, in a simple term, a fraternity or a series or group of fraternal organizations. But there is Freemasonry for women as well. And by the way, Clap, I hope that you will hit the like and subscribe button. And I think that anytime you have communities being formed, social groups being formed, support networks being formed, I think that can absolutely be a very decent and strong pushback against nihilism, and against those who are struggling with not so good lives. And thank you, Dream Seeker. Please do not forget, you got to claim your month Patreon membership. You had 4 social workers growing up. And they were very polite, nice people, helped me through. I'm very sorry that you went through that with your dad. I hope that it sounds like you broke that cycle, so that's a good thing. Um, and yeah, sometimes people have, difficult childhoods, difficult adulthoods for that matter. And it's good to know that there are people there who will support you. So I'm glad that they were polite and nice people. Social workers, man, to their credit, um, they absolutely do incredible work helping a lot of people who really, really struggle. Well, let's be careful with what we're saying on the stream and what we're saying there are court systems and that's the appropriate way to deal with these things. Well, there's still appropriate ways to deal with these things. Um, but I can understand, again, it's not an it's not an easy life. It's not an easy family situation to have a father who is hurting others. So, but I'm still glad you're here, Clap. And I hope that, you mentioned above you have kind of a not great life. I hope that your life does get better and is getting better. Well, you do hear that often, Leonardo. I'm not a fan of that. I've never been a believer that things are worse today than they were in the past. You know, I certainly am much happier with the dentistry of 2025 than the dentistry of 1025. If I have a sore tooth, I have no interest in getting, classical dentistry done, martial arts, whatever it is. I've never believed that. I do believe that there was a social stronger fabric in earlier times, and I do believe that that did create a better sense of unity within these associations. And I think we in Freemasonry need to figure out if we want to survive and if we want these associations to survive, how we can what's the word I'm looking for? Re Find once again those positive social networks. Being a boxer, discipline is absolutely the best way forward. You've got a job, you've got a son, and all of that stuff you should be very proud of. So keep up the good work. But being a boxer, I mean, those guys it's a great form of discipline, it's a great form of exercise, right? Probably, in my opinion, probably the best type of martial arts when it comes to being able to defend yourself. I apologize. No worries. I appreciate the apology. That's no worries at all. But I do appreciate you coming back on here and being here. I do these streams on 1 p.m. Mondays through Fridays and oftentimes 1 a.m. as well. And again, I talk about Freemasonry. Sometimes I have specific topics. Sometimes I just chat about whatever. Um, I also have personal YouTube channels, but Clap, you don't, I appreciate your apology. Uh, Apology accepted. No need to worry about it. Thank you for coming on. Again, I do appreciate you being here. And like I said, I think I don't know a ton about you, but it sounds like you have a lot to be proud of, right? The fact that you have a job, were a boxer for 12 years, have a son, and it sounds like you broke the cycle from your father. So good for you. Um, That's very kind of you. I'm not always a nice guy, believe me. I have my not so great days just as much as anybody else, especially when it comes to Freemasonry, because it's something I love so much. When I see things in Freemasonry I don't like, I don't always react in the way I should by any means, but I try my best. So, but that's very kind of you, Clap. And I hope to see you on more of my streams as well as, you can check out more of my content. I hope I help people. Certainly, what I'm trying to do is help Freemasonry. And I believe that Freemasonry helps people. So, absolutely, I'm in that boat. Um, but certainly, if people come on the stream and talk about, and want to talk about kind of what's happening in their life or how they're doing, I'm always happy to chat with them, right? Because I'd hope that people would come on here and maybe leave, leave the stream happier than when they came on. I would never want anybody I mean, it happens, right? If people, sometimes you have to block people, sometimes you have to call people out. But as a general rule, I'd want everybody leaving the stream to be happier than when they join. And it's fun. I really enjoy talking to people. No, you've done, and that's very kind of you. And sometimes you just got to compose yourself a little bit, right? Plus, I mean, the thing about the internet and live streams is it does kind of encourage that quality, right? Because you don't know the people you're talking to. So it's very easy to just come on and say whatever it is and kind of make the funny jokes. That can be a really enjoyable, not enjoyable, but that can be something that the is encouraged within live streaming, right? It's very, um, it's oftentimes encouraged. The anonymity of it, the live streaming quality of it, it's very common to do that. So don't worry, Clap, you are not alone. You are not alone by any means. And what makes you different, though, is the fact you came back on and apologized. That makes you different, and that is very much appreciated. That's the other thing about Freemasonry I like is it's very hard to be mean to people within Freemasonry because you have to see them face to face, right? You don't get away with talking poop the way you talk poop necessarily online or on the internet. But yeah, so we're done my topic for today, right? Where all I wanted to talk about was kind of this black pill approach. I shouldn't say all I want to talk about, right? The one thing I want to talk about was this idea of being black pilled. Um, but I will definitely, now we're just gonna hang out, chat, see who joins. Like I said, my next podcast episode is going to be about Freemasonry in Mexico, so that should be a lot of fun. I think we can, Leonardo. I think we absolutely can have moments of being black pilled, 100%. Maybe even, yeah, I would say even maybe 1000% we can all be black pilled. The question is when we are black pilled, do we have the supports within our lives necessary to get out of that state and into a more optimistic point of view? That is true. That was definitely a black pill moment. So we all have those moments. Again, I think it's one of those things too where how do I put it? It's the thing, if you love something, the more you love it, the more potential you have to become black pilled because the emotions are going to be stronger on both sides of it, right? Um, and so that's why sometimes getting distance, that's why I have tried to, even on this channel, but certainly on my personal channel, talk about scary movies and things I love outside of Freemasonry. Because if all of your energy and if all of your brain power is being focused on um, one thing, then the burnout is real. But not just the burnout is real, also the strong emotions on both sides of it can be real. Okay, what's your favorite scary movie? Not to use a quote. Mine is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 or Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. Because amongst other reasons, I love Lisa Wilcox or Alice Johnson. That character is my favorite character in movies, as well as my favorite character in horror movies. I love Nightmare on Elm Street. I just love all of them. So, but I love number 4 and 5 particularly. Smile or A Quiet Place. What'd you think of Smile 2? I really liked Smile 2 a lot. I liked Smile 2 better than the original. I'm one of those guys who's a bit unique. I much prefer the sequels usually more so than the originals. Not always the case, but very often. And A Quiet Place, I've enjoyed The Quiet Place. I've never seen the sequels. Saw the original, never saw number two or three. Yeah, Smile 2 was definitely crazier than Smile 1. Or I guess just Smile 2 was definitely crazier than Smile. Um, However, this scene when she's in her apartment and all the demons are just kind of chasing her around the apartment. Every time she looks away, they get closer. That was a really good jump scare scene. I'm not one of those people. I'm not like I like Truth or Dare. I like Truth or Dare more than Smile, to be honest. I'm one of those people. I'm not a scary movie snob. I have no problem with like PG-13 horror. I have no problem with jump scares. I have zero problem with any of that stuff. So I enjoy all of those, including, like I said, even Ouija, which came out in 2015, 2016. I feel like it got very unfairly knocked, and I really enjoyed it. So, When a Stranger Calls, jump scares are great, and I don't like how they get always a negative view. Do you ever go clap to any horror movie conventions? I've been to a bunch in Chicago. I loved going to them. They were awesome. They have scary movie conventions in England, but what part of England? My dad is from England. He's from northern England, close to Newcastle. I think they've had a couple in London. They probably would be exclusively in London or like bigger cities, right? But I think there's been a couple in London. So maybe check that out. I know, England is not as small as people think it is, but it's certainly, much smaller than Canada. So you could probably drive to one. Which town? My dad's from Whistle. I do not know where Hartlepool is. If you had been from Newcastle, that would be insane. Let me just check. Or sorry, from Whistle, that would be crazy. Hartlepool. Oh, so on the coast. Looks like right on the coast. So probably. Oh, you're south of Newcastle. Whistle is um, west of Newcastle. Okay, so yeah, so you're probably let's see. Yeah, you're about 2 hour or you're about an hour and 18 minutes away from Whistle. Okay. I'd love to visit again. I still have all my dad's family is over in England, so I would love to get the chance to visit once again. I think it'd be awesome, especially to check out some Masonic buildings there and Freemasonry in Newcastle. Like I said, I think it's a really cool spot. I met all my visits in the past. I really loved so. And again, a lot of great Masonic history there as well. There, I remember visiting some of those and thinking they were so cool. I used to love ancient Roman history, and so seeing all of the Roman history there, I thought was really, really fascinating, and I loved it. Like Vindeland, I went to that a couple times. It was really cool. I mean, England has some absolutely incredible and amazing history, so I love to, and it's interesting that a lot of that stuff comes up in Freemasonry. Certainly, yesterday talking about the Anderson constitutions. I mean, you guys definitely ran the world for a little while. I think you had certain really interesting advantages. Certainly, being an island forced you to develop seafaring capabilities very early on, and those seafaring capabilities were incredibly important for for your ability to rule the world, right? So you had that advantage there. You're kind of acted as a trade route. Um, you had control over I think the English Channel it was, but also, credit to the people from the United Kingdom, from England, for having the determination and the grit and the toughness and the skill and the ability to do that as well. So, well, I would say the history of every culture and civilization is full of both the sublime and the ridiculous. So sometimes more ridiculous than sublime. Sometimes more sublime than ridiculous. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it happened though. Human beings can do some pretty strange stuff. I type in monkey hanger in Google, it will take me straight. I mean, if that you should be proud of, let me tell you. If I lived in a town and when you typed in monkey hanger, it took me directly to that town, I would be quite proud of being from that town. Let me tell you. One can only dream of having such wondrous uh, 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 what fame, infamy, pick your term. Let me know, Clap, if you responded to the poll question, and if you did, what you said. I'd be curious to know. Interesting enough, no is at the lead at 44%, but then yes with other supports is at 31, and yes just altogether is at 25. to give it a bit more time to see who else joins. Like I said, now we're just hanging out. We're done kind of the main chat, and now it's just us hanging out, seeing who wants to join and what you guys want to talk about. We're gonna give it another 5, 10 minutes. Then, like I said, I still got to get a bunch of work done. So, and by the way, clap. I do hope if you get the chance, you'll check out some of my other stuff. I have some other YouTube channels. You can find me on Patreon. I got to get ready for my degree tonight. And actually, more importantly, I got to get ready for my degree tomorrow. Not my degree, but I'm doing work in a degree for somebody else. Hello, Courtney. Not quite evening yet, but it's good to see you. How's it going? Smooth. How's it going? Good to see you again. I hope that your day is going well. I'm giving it a few more minutes just to see who joins, but I'm going to be probably ending the stream pretty soon. I have no idea what that even means. I can't do any stances. I have no legs, but I'm sure that's a great stance. I'm glad you're doing well, Courtney. Well, I get what you're saying, but I still have no clue what the stance is. But don't forget, keep in mind that sign or the sign to which you're referring is actually different in different jurisdictions. So you need to keep that in mind. It's not, and or might not be the same necessarily that you're seeing online. But I don't know what the Kamahama, I can't pronounce that stance even is, so I can't say. Born to be an MMA fighter, turned out to be a Freemason. That's the curse for all of us. All of us, born to be an MMA fighter, turned out to be a Freemason. I mean, I wouldn't be an MMA fighter. I'd get my ass beat. However, um, I'm sure others that is the case. Actually, there's a few Freemasons I know of who are pretty big fans of MMA. I like MMA. I'm not a huge fan of it the way others are, but I enjoy it. I'm appreciative of the work and effort that those guys put into it. Special technique for the Dragon Ball anime. Never got into anime, so I definitely cannot respond to you on that one. I don't think I've ever watched an anime fully. I should. It'd be awesome to check out, but like I said, just never got into it. But all right, guys, thank you all so much for joining. We're gonna end this stream now. I put a couple of quizzes and questions on my YouTube channel, so I hope you guys will check those out, and I will talk to everybody very soon. All right, guys, have a great day. Today's Thursday. There will be a stream tonight at 1 a.m. There will be a stream tomorrow 1 p.m. Then my hope is this weekend to have another podcast about Freemasonry in Mexico. All right, guys, talk to you later. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to y'all soon. And Mr. Keeps, thanks for being here. Smooth, thanks for being here. Um, Clap, apology accepted. No worries at all. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you all soon. You should always guard yourself in life as well as in Freemasonry.